Well, on to this. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is backtracking on plans to move migrants ahead of the Democratic National Convention. Remember, he's a progressive, and he's pushing back, changing the plan thanks to an outcry from residents. A local alderman spoke out against the progressive mayor's plan. She accused the mayor of trying to hide the migrants, saying, quote, "In our initial conversation, there was mention of the DNC, and like the timing of it, it all felt a little odd to me. I don't think that we should be moving people to hide them." Turns out the mayor kept the plan under wraps. His office admitted that it never even spoke to the building owner of the space they were looking to turn into the city's newest migrant shelter, though they did say they spoke to someone representing the property. The alderman who spoke out against the plan says this is proof Chicago's leaders are in over their heads with the city's migrant crisis. Quote, "This shines a big light and calls into question how this is being managed and the people that we have working for the city. That just is mind-blowing to me." Tammy, what's mind-blowing to me is 41,000 plus asylum seekers come to Chicago and progressive mayors reject them. And mayors who requested funding for illegal immigrants reject them. What happened to this sanctuary state and city?
You know, it was just an idea. It's the kind of thing you discuss at seminars. And you talk about over cocktail parties, and you've had a couple of martinis, and you say, that'll sound great. And you imagine that they'll all stay in Arizona and Texas, maybe Southern California. They'll never come up here because for whatever reason, they have no idea. But what Johnson wants to do is historic, right? It is a kind of thing that has been done for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Catherine the Great in Russia had an aide named Potemkin, and she always wanted to tour the rural areas and outside Moscow. And he put up facades, literal facades, moved everyone behind like a theater so that she saw what looked like to be beautiful places that were fine. It was a disaster, of course, behind the facade. Those are the Potemkin villages, something that is false. We saw it, of course, in San Francisco when when Biden was visiting when she was coming to San Francisco, successfully cleaned up that city in a week. But that's what they want to do. They can't do it now, and good for them. Let everyone see what's really going on in this country.
Emily, there's so many layers of hypocrisy in this story. I'm reading the Chicago Tribune this morning, and this quote is just incredible. "Complicating the matter further is the mayor's task to showcase Chicago's strength, including its reputation as a pro-immigrant city on a national stage at the DNC." Okay, so in an effort to showcase how progressive and inviting you are to illegal immigrants, let's make sure we move them out of the city so no one sees them.
Well, that's the whole point, that they can't have their cake and eat it too. Or they can try. I mean, we saw that here with Mayor Adams, where he said, we are a pro-immigrant city, but President Biden, we need extra funds to care for these people. Right. The reality is, it doesn't matter if you're pro anyone. If you have an excessive surge of humans, you need to provide for them. And if you don't have that infrastructure, then everyone suffers for it. Mm-hmm. And to Tammy's point in the original block, I really appreciate here that what we're seeing is the difference between the boots on ground and those elites that are making the decisions for the whole Democrat Party, for everyone wearing and carrying the blue flag and saying, this is the lockstep line you have to say. This is not the Olympics. We are not a third world country where we clean up things for the facade, for the oligarchs. And this is not that. And the reality is that their policies have led, in fact, to the destruction of our cities. And most importantly, to their point, the suffering of those migrants. So they need to, I hope, pull the curtain back, reveal the Potemkin villages, because the reality is we don't have the infrastructure for these people. And the sooner they acknowledge it, the better.
Yeah, there are a lot of Potemkin villages on the left, Lee. Just walked on memory lane, foxnews.com. California city removes homeless in beautification before Biden summit with Chinese President Xi. El Paso, even CNN, they buried it beyond the headline, but Biden makes tightly controlled visit to the southern border. They say reporters on the ground did not see any migrants at the respite center, despite the president being there, not along the motorcade route, and they were asked to explain, the administration was, why there weren't any. There just weren't any at the center when he arrived. It's amazing. Completely coincidental. They haven't had any today.
Wow.
What was that movie from like the late 90s? It was like the play on Bill Clinton when he was president. They came up with a war movie.
Wag the dog.
Yeah, right. Wag the dog.
Oh.
You're kind of like living through it. Like this entire year is a Democratic National Convention. When the cameras are on,
great point.
You try to alter reality. And we now have seen just how upset the residents of Chicago are. They're showing up at city council meetings and they are flipping out because they are seeing their elected officials abandoning their priorities to instead have additional budget allocations to take care of those who are illegally inside of our country. Now, if you want to fix up the city for a week, that's only going to upset these voters even more, saying, whoa, you actually know how to deal with this?
Right.
Yes.
And you haven't been dealing it for the other 51 weeks of the year? I think there's a big problem for the left inside of cities where, whether it's the black community, the Hispanic community, the Asian community, they're fed up. Longtime Democratic voters, they're disenfranchised. They're done. They're realizing, if you know how to fix this, man, you need to be doing it the rest of the year, or we're out.
Harris
This November,
talked to one
they're
of those
out.
voters last hour.
Yeah, I did. We had a roundtable, Border in Focus. In fact, this is Cotter Truss.
There are no funds to support people who are coming here. We have no place for those people to be housed. We don't have the resources. We've spent in the city of Chicago thus far $1 billion. And when you think about those monies and the fact that our communities are still underserved, we still have schools that are underserviced, underutilized, under-resourced, and you look at the money that's being spent, we're angry.
There's a movement called Chicago Red, and Cotter Truss says, you know, she voted for the first time Republican in a primary. And she said, you know, it's not a fantasy that Biden is losing the black vote. But as you said, it's the American vote that he's losing, because this is happening all over the country. Chicago is, you know, where we're focused on right now, because that's where they're going to have their Democratic National Convention. And I guess they can try to clean it up. I don't know if they can make all those people, though, who are willing to vote Republican stop talking about that between now and then. And what does Biden say to those people when he gets to Chicago? What if the facade falls in the wind and suddenly you see all the illegal immigrants that they're trying to hide from the president? I mean, look, I kind of make a joke about that, but something will crack in the surface.
Quite a quagmire coming to TVs near you in August. We will all be watching the DNC.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.